Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Eon and today I'll go over the thriller crime film Girl in the Basement. The story begins with Sarah and her father, Don, rushing Marie to the hospital because she is having trouble breathing. When Marie stops breathing, Sarah begins to panic. Don is urged to drive faster by her. Don specifically instructs Sarah to remain silent when they arrive at the hospital. The paramedics rush to Marie's aid at the hospital. They give her oxygen and try to save her life, but all they get on the monitor is a flat line. The plot begins 20 years ago with a seemingly peaceful family dinner scene. Sarah and her sister Amy are having dinner with Dawn and Irene, their parents. The mood at the table shifts as Sarah's father demonstrates his oppressive side by refusing to allow her to attend a party and demonstrating his control over the family. Sarah goes out with her boyfriend Chris that night. Her parents discover her empty room later, and her father calls her as an issue. Sarah enjoys dancing with Chris at the party, and he later sings her a song he wrote especially for her. They express their love for one another by kissing. Sarah returns home in the morning, and Dawn has been waiting for her all night. They fight, and Sarah declares that once she reaches the age of 18, she will leave the family for good. Sarah discusses her plans to travel across the country while working to support herself with her mother and sister. Her father overhears the conversation and goes downstairs to reveal the existence of a secret room hidden behind a bookshelf. Sarah graduates 3 months later. Sarah learns from her mother that her father has been spending more time in the basement. When Irene leaves the house, Don tricks Sarah into accompanying him to the basement to help him carry a box. He leads her into the secret room, explaining that it was built by the previous owner as a bomb shelter. He locks her in the room, and she screams for help in terror. Unfortunately, because the shelter is soundproof, no one can hear her. Her mother, concerned about her daughter's whereabouts, calls the police. Her father pays her a visit on the 4th day and coldly explains the logistics of her confinement. She will have to earn everything she receives from now on, including the clean ventilated air. Don takes advantage of Sarah before he leaves. A cop comes to the family and informs them that she has most likely left for her planned cross-country trip. Sarah's mother does not believe she would ever leave home without saying goodbye, especially before her 18th birthday. Sarah, alone and afraid, reminisces about her nights with Chris as the days pass. Chris arrives at the house. Dawn lies to him, telling him that Sarah ran away with her childhood neighbor Steve after graduation. Her 18th birthday is celebrated on the 21st day of her captivity in the basement, and her father brings her a cake. She requests a clock, and he tells her that she must do something for him in order for him to do something for her. He beats her when she refuses him. Almost a year after her capture, she discovers she is pregnant and her water breaks. She gives birth to a girl named Marie on her own. After 4 years, Sarah becomes pregnant again. Don has 2 homes, one in the basement with Sarah and her daughter Marie, and one with his wife Irene and daughter Amy. Irene, who is still concerned about Sarah's whereabouts, wants to hire a private investigator, but Don says no. Dawn brings Sarah and Marie a TV in the basement as a reward for their good behavior. Sarah later has a second child, a son named Michael. Sarah transforms her awful life story into a bedtime story for her children, complete with princesses and knights. Chris returns to the house, this time looking for Sarah. Amy, her sister, tells him the truth. Realizing Don lied to Chris, they discuss how awful he has always been to Sarah. Amy is afraid that Don killed her because of his personality and violent behavior in the past. Sarah entertains her children with imaginary adventures to help them forget about the outside world. Meanwhile, Amy and Irene confront Don about his lies. Irene, enraged, yells that she will do whatever it takes to find her daughter. Don drops his keys on the armchair during their fight. Amy takes the keys and goes downstairs to look for clues. Don finds her, takes back his keys, and fights Amy. She is furious, terrified, and blames him for Sarah's disappearance. Sarah eventually has another baby boy, whom she names Thomas. Sarah, being nice and calm, persuades Don to take the 3rd baby upstairs. She convinces him by explaining that there is no space in the basement for another baby, and that she does not have the time to care for it. Irene discovers the baby on the porch of the house. Sarah writes in a heartfelt note in the baby basket that this is her baby, and that she wants it to be raised by Irene. She explains in the letter that she and her boyfriend do not have the financial means to care for the baby. Another note from Sarah asking for help is also in the basket. Unfortunately, Dawn finds it and hurts her once more. The years pass. Children in captivity develop an extraordinary imagination, expanding on their mother's bedtime story. Sarah has now spent 14 years in the basement. Marie has matured into a lovely young lady who experiments with makeup one night. When Dawn expresses an interest in her beauty, Sarah begs Dawn to leave her daughter alone. She does not want to be abused. Dawn, in turn, turns off the power that controls the clean air. Marie conveys her worries about not having met anyone and having no friends while gasping for air. Marie has no idea Dawn is both her grandfather and father. Thomas, now an adult, discovers his grandmother sobbing in his mother's bedroom. Irene misses her daughter and tells Thomas how wonderful Sarah is. Raindrops begin to fall from the ceiling in the basement at the same time. Sarah climbs to the roof and discovers a dripping roof. She digs her way to the surface with a spoon, flashing a distress signal. Instead of investigating, a neighbor sees it and informs Dawn. Dawn beats Sarah, who is pregnant once more. As she sobs in pain from the beating, she loses her baby. Dawn buries the baby in the yard after Sarah has a stillbirth. Dawn goes downstairs to complain. He also compliments Thomas, who has grown into a strong athlete. When Marie and Michael ask when they will be allowed to leave, Dawn blames Sarah and her bad behavior. She is the reason they are trapped, pressed by her children's never-ending questions about their lives. Sarah yells and destroys all of their furniture in an act of rage. She collapses to the ground, exhausted, remembering the best times with Chris. Her children cover her with a blanket and clean their house. They sincerely apologize to her. Sarah, who is emotional, tells them that they are old enough to hear the true story of their captivity. So far, they've only known that Dawn lives upstairs with their Aunt Irene to assist with Thomas' care. Sick of lying to them, she tells them everything, beginning with the truth that her life is the inspiration for their favorite bedtime story. She gently explains that Dawn is both her and their father. Marie suffers a severe asthma attack the moment she learns the painful truth. The children now believe that something is wrong with them. Sarah comforts them, telling them that she loves them and that Dawn is to blame. Another incident occurs a year later between Dawn and Michael after Dawn insults Sarah and her appearance. Dawn is having problems at work, so the food for the basement is being rationed. He soon loses his job. Dawn, who is facing foreclosure, attempts to suffocate the family in the basement. He connects the exhaust fumes from the car to the air vent. He is interrupted in the garage by Thomas, who unknowingly saves their lives. While Dawn and his family enjoy a backyard barbecue, Marie is ill and struggling to breathe. Dawn will not take Marie to the hospital. Sarah begs for his assistance. She promises not to say anything about it. Dawn agrees. Michelle has been left behind. After 20 years in captivity, we return to the beginning of the film, when Marie is being rushed to the hospital. Sarah is very concerned about Marie's life and is overjoyed when the doctors save her. When the nurse inquires about Marie's medical history, she is informed that she has been homeschooled and has only been treated with natural remedies. Sarah slowly checks the hospital for a way out, but she appears tired and disoriented. Sarah spills water on the medical forms and separates from Dawn in an attempt to flee. Seconds before Dawn arrives, Sarah approaches the nurse and states that she needs help. Dawn is approached by a police officer. He is apprehended by the police. Sarah informs Marie of this. They are both safe and unharmed. The house is surrounded by cops, who also release Michael. When Irene and Thomas see Michael gasping for air as they carry him out of the basement, they are devastated. From the back of the police car, Dawn sees everything. Later, on a beautiful summer day, Marie, Thomas, and Michael play in the countryside while Sarah, Irene, and Amy keep an eye on them from the porch of the house. Marie notices a figure approaching from the driveway. It's Chris. He comes riding his motorcycle. They go for a walk together with Sarah. He regrets not trying harder to find her and believing her father's lie. He gives her a gift, a pink motorcycle helmet he bought for her when she was 18, and they were planning a trip. Finally content. They embark on their long-awaited motorcycle ride. Make sure to subscribe and enable notifications to see more videos like this. Thank you for taking the time to watch.